hopefully. So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live people and live chat. So I'll be answering questions and also recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure, or when they're home or when they're up. So what I was going to do is pop the some gouache into my little book. So I think this is probably about week 3 for this, and I just roughly put them in here, and they have cracked a little bit. So maybe we could experiment and put them on the plastic. Maybe that would be better. Yes, I think I'm going to do that. It's the back of the book. It's the back of the book. So I do need to keep in there a little bit. Or maybe the colours won't show up as well. You've always got to think of having a white palette because your colours show up on a white palette. Can't decide what to do. I think I'm going to put them on paper. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put them on paper. Yeah. They will crack, but the colour's in there. So I was measuring the centre of here, just roughly, or you can do it as neat as you want. Oh, so it's 2, isn't it? Yes, of course. Half of 4 is 2. And I would have been better with a finer point. So, as I say, when you do this, you can be better. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8. We've got 10. So, if we have 5, we want... And then we've got 1, 2. We haven't got quite as much as that. So, if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh well, that would be fine. As I say, you can be a lot neater. This is how I normally do my squares. Very, very rough, I'm afraid. I'm not a measuring girl. A little bit dyslexic, so measuring is a bit of a pest for me. And you can always have extra ones. You don't have to have, you might have 12 if you've got 12 colours. Normally they come in 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line there and a line on top. But you can put it whatever you want. Probably there isn't going to be a much difference with this one, but we'll do that. And depending on where you want your colour swatch and where you want the name. So basically, can everybody see what I'm doing? So I don't know if I've opened these or not. No, they're not open, these. And I should have done that. So what I'm actually just going to put a bit of a thinner there. Because sometimes when you squeeze out, I think I did last time I did it with a palette knife, but it depends how apt you are at squidging colour out. So there's a fair amount of colour on there. So we'll put the lid on, and then I do have quite a fine pen. I hope. I've just found my Star Trek pen. But you want a fine pen or a fine pencil, really. So if I go in with this one, I think I'd like vermilion. It's a hue, so it's not a real one, but we'll call that that. And then what you do is you have not a very fine paintbrush, but not a fat paintbrush. So it's quite damp, is that one, I think. Oops, I just left that one in water, which is naughty. And then what you need to do is to just, maybe we should have let it dry, probably, that might have been better. So if you do that with every colour and then leave it, and then you just kind of, and you get a bit of a colour gradient. And again, you can do this in front of the TV, or so that's the red one, and then we need we could label them all first and then put them where you want them. So we could put probably put that one next to this one. So this one's, because you're going to have to, it'd probably be easier to do it this way. And I'm sorry about the angle, I'm left-handed. Yes, Timothy says, would I demonstrate how they work? Yes, I'll go into mine because they're dry. So you will need to do this, and we'll just do another one. I'll just write burnt sienna. And this is really rough. I don't know where the top of my pen is. This is very rough. If you let that to dry and then you did the colour, it would be different. Because, as I say, there's something very strange about how this works. And it's taken a good few years for me to get these colours in. But once they're in, they're fab. So again, that's another one done. And it's, as I say, it is that colour, when it's dried, it will be completely different from when I'm doing it now. It'll probably look like from here. And then you start at this end and you just, oh, I didn't get enough quite. And you just keep swizzling with the water. And you get a little bit of a gradient. It's best to leave them dry and then do the colour swatch. And that's all I did with this one. So what I was going to do today was put another colour into the little book, and then in the next section I was going to show you how to do a bit of Inktober, and then how to do the watercolour, how the book works. And I've put the book somewhere now. So mine are dry. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to lean that up a little bit. So if we've left those to dry, they turn out like this. Now they do crack a bit, and the yellow has come off a little bit. So it might be better to try them on the plastic. I probably would do that as well, because this was just a practice to see if I could get them to stop in for a start off. And all you do is you touch the colour, and my magic piece of, and you can colour in, and it's still very vivid. It's very vivid. It depends how much you constitute this. You don't want to wet it too much, but you know, if you make a puddle, you get the dense colour. So if you're doing a mandala or something where you wanted a real flat colour, you could do that. And there is a lot of colour in there. There is quite a big puddle of colour. So if you just have a set of gouache, they're in there. The same with the watercolours. You know, the little cheap watercolours, they'll go in there. These will go in there, no problem. I probably would maybe think about, well, I normally would have thought about just putting on the plastic, but this is just watercolour. This is professional watercolour. Actually, I tell a lie, it isn't. These three colours were the Cotman and the red. These three. That one's professional watercolour. It's a Senia. I can never say it. A Senia. These is just these squidged out into a fat puddle. And because I've done a couple of millimetres, I put these in and then I shut it straight away, because of course it can never touch, because there's about 2 millimeters of this fat blue colour, and there's a couple of millimeters of the red of the actual blocks. And again, there's tons of colour. I've done 3 pages just with these, and again, easy to touch. You're sitting there, you've got your tablespoon of water, little pot like this. You've got a teaspoon of water, and you wet your brush. This is a bit big, really. You touch your colour, and then you start colouring in. And of course, once I've got these in, with this little plastic, it's from my Filofax, I stuck it in with some double-sided tape. Wouldn't advise it because it leaks through the colours, but it works for me because I know it's there. But if you have a chance not to do that, that plastic here now sits over there, and they do stick a bit to this, but not much. But I can use this as a palette. I can take, if I wanted to use it as a normal wash, I'll just pop that under there because I don't know if you can see that red. And then I can take the yellow. And as long as I'm not touching the paper, I can touch that block with colour. And I can mix. It's not very wet, but I can mix whatever colour. Not doing very well with the water. But you can mix whatever colour you want and make all your own colours. Again, you could even take that out, actually. You could take that out. Mix your colours and then do your washes or colour, backgrounds, whatever you want. The only thing you've got to do is remember that the minute you've finished with this, you've got to clean it so that it's clean and dry. And then that's wet, but it will stay there. It will stay there. And that's how I normally put it back in. And then just shut your book up and you're off. So any tubes will go on. As I have put them onto the plastic. The gouache cracked, but the tube paint didn't, because tube paint has a different gum in it than the gouache. I think it's a different gum. Is there any questions? I hope that wasn't as clear as mud. So really, if you just wanted to put those in there, you've got every colour on the planet in 2 millimeters. If you really wanted. But it's just the fact that I love colouring with all these colours. And that's what somehow, when you're colouring, you do want to look through all your colours and pick one and then say, oh, well, that green's going to be nice, but it's going to go next to the Caran d'Ache, or it's going to near colour 2s, or it's going to go next to a pastel. I've got pastels in here. These are professional pastels, and I was so excited about getting my Gansai Tambi watercolours, which I absolutely adore. I love this. Every time I get it out, I drop it. Next week I'll put these in, and I've made a puddle in the bottom, which you can hardly tell, every one. And then I've daubed it, twisted. I used a big fat paintbrush like this, twisted it, got all the colour that I could out until I had a big fat puddle of colour. And these were all over the house, these, I have to say. But you don't have to cut them in squares. Again, I only did it because I thought if I used all of one, I don't have to waste the whole page. I can just pull that one off, remake another one of that particular green and stick it back on. Again, labelled. But these greens are gorgeous, these greens. And again, this paper's been wet and more wet and wet hundreds of times, but not saturated. But I used to work with a damp sponge, and I left the sponge in by accident. And it lifted the colour off, but it hasn't actually touched even the cheap photocopy paper. That cheap photocopy paper is still actually done quite well. But I love these, but every time I open them, I drop the box, because it's a big box to take with me. And now I've got those Gansai Tambi watercolours, and the reds and the greens, and when I'm do the Bible journaling, the gold is wonderful for lettering. I'll very quickly show you this. Oops, if I don't break my neck. Sorry, I've walked about a bit today, and sorry, I tell a lie, I haven't walked about a bit. I've stood quite a bit, and boy, do I know it. I'm going to do tomorrow. So that's what happens, and I've used those in here. So if I really carefully lift this up, and I'll pop it on autofocus because we will be struggling in a minute, I think. I have things propped up all over the place, so just bear with me 2 seconds. Oh, Suzanne says, I've just got the water-soluble Charvin Pastels painting sticks. The colours are so vibrant, with or without water, and very cheap. $7 for 24 at Blix. Oh, wow. Can I go to Blix, please? Oh, wow. Well, they would go in. Any water-soluble thing will go in. But I have to show you this really quickly. And I'm sorry about the my messy table. But in here, I gessoed the pages. But now the way I work, I don't need to do that. It's an experiment. This is just watercolour pastels out of the little book, straight into the book. And this is my design that I do all the time. And I designed a lettering. And this gold is the Gansai Tambi, Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolour gold. And there's one layer on there. That is the most amazing gold I've ever bought. It really is fab. It's the most beautiful, the colours. I think that's the only one. Yeah. So I've designed my own. This is the design I've been doing since I was 16. I designed this Chinese. It's from a Chinese, and then I just draw it out and colour it in. But the gold is a fab. If you want a nice lettering gold, I have to say that Gansai Tambi watercolour. And unfortunately, it's only in the big set. It's only in the 36 set. But the 3 italics, sorry, is it 2 italics or 3? I don't know if the white's italic, but there's a silver and a bronzy, and that's actually called gold, but that's bronze, and that's the gold that I use. And I've done quite a lot of lettering. But these, they look bigger than they are, but there's a couple of millimetres, I think, of colour in there. But that gold is fab, absolutely fab. And the fact that I've actually got it in my book, so that I don't need to take that lovely big thing about. I have to take, I made this from an old handbag. It was a handbag that somebody bought me, and I loved it, absolutely loved the colours, loved everything about it. But I knew the minute I put anything in it, it would break. And I've had it 10 years. I must have had maybe 7 years. So I just took the sides off. And I took the sides off and tacked around it. And now it's a book cover. And of course it's in lovely condition because I've never used it as a handbag. Oh dear, another bunny trail. Rabbit droppings. Rabbit droppings. Oh, hi Vicky, yes, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Well, anybody else I've missed? Jamil, Kingo, Marielle, Avi, and Susan. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. I was having a bit of a waffle about my book. So I found some different gouache and I've put them on a paper palette. And then labelled it, because again, you know, I might use all that red, but I may not use any of the other colours. So you can redo them. But I was waffling about the Gansai Tambi watercolours. So I'll put those in next week because they are absolutely fab and the colours are beautiful, especially for colouring in if you don't want to use the traditional colours. And I think there's three pages, but and the red and the greens and the yellows. So that's another 36 in the book as well. So it doesn't take long to build the book up. Now I did them in reconstituting the puddles, and then daubed them onto like a big fat puddle of colour. But the one thing I did with this is every time I did that, I had a brush full of colour and a tight Yorkshire lass. I could not put that in the washing brush and wash it out. So I coloured in 36, I tell a lie, I coloured in 20 full colour pages from a book I didn't particularly like. And they're not in here. I will show you this very quickly. Apart from the graphy tint, I'm sorry about the glare, these are the colours of the graphy tint. It's upside down. But they are the most gorgeous muted colours. They're the only ones I don't mix. In my little book, if I'm using the graphy tint, I just use the graphy tint. And I did that for Thumper. Thumper is the graphy tint, 3 colours. I think there's a gunmetal and there's something else. But Thumper's done in the graphy tint. And so the graphy tint Derwent, one pencil you get about at least 10 different colours and different shades, because you've got the control of a paper palette. But normally how I work, and this was a photocopy of the famous doily that we sent Dee Dee. I've tried to get some more and I can't. But this is a prime example of how my little book works. I photocopy things and I sit and I mix every colour together. So there's Caran d'Ache in there, there's Neocolor 2s, there's Derwent, there's Peerless, there's Kuretake Gansai. Could not tell you what colours are in here, which are which, but they still kind of go together. So I've used lots of different ones. I've looked for a pink to go with the blue. I've sat and thought, oh, I quite want an orange colour. The greens were from different, the ink tins next to a Peerless. So I would have had to have at least 2 desks worth of colours out in their original state. But it doesn't look odd. It doesn't look like I've used lots of different things. It just looks like it's coloured in. That was one of the first ones I ever did. And I really like the fact that you can play. Oh, I'll take it out of it. I'll take it out of its plastic. You can really play with the colours. Just as the colours without thinking what they're made of. They're all water-based. They're all in my little book. And as I couldn't tell you what was what, because I just think, oh, well, I want a pale green. I want to play about with the greens. So I use 3 different colours. So I love working that way as well. I have to say, I love having... And the other thing is, I've got everything out. You know, I've got everything out. That was the same. That's different ones. This is different ones as well. Again, there's some Peerless in there. There's... I'll take that out of the plastic as well. Actually, this isn't a photocopy. And this is, again, that's what I've got some videos of when I first tried to do this. There's a couple of videos of me, I think this one's called Watercolouring in the Car, to show that you can actually get these gorgeous colours and effects. I hope it's focusing. Just playing with a paintbrush, a tablespoon of water, in the car, and everybody's gone shopping. And I've got a few hundred colours to play with. So that was my first play. with these and to practice. Now on the back, I would think, yes, some of these are peerless and some are Caran d'Ache and some are Derwent Ink 10s, whereas the paler ones will probably be the Derwent pencils because they don't bleed through. And I've just sent off for the Inspire Bible Journal, and without putting anything on there, without destroying the pages, I'll be doing some of that because they are thin pages. Oh, hi Judy and Coach and everybody. So if I carry on a little bit, again, it's a good idea probably to, so we've done the red and the green one, it's a good idea to put them away when you've used them, and then we could go into the two orange. So all I'm doing, and this is the gouache. This is gouache. Now I did do a thicker lump in the other one, but it did. Oops. Now this is a bit thicker coming out. Look, you see. This isn't very. These aren't professionals, but again, it's colour. And yellow ochre is a colour all unto itself. Because for skin tones, there is no better colour than to start with yellow ochre. That doesn't look particularly very nice. It's only the yellow ochre that does it. And again, I haven't used these. I must have bought these for the kids. Whoops, because it's gouache. But you could do this with watercolour. I haven't put a thick layer because it cracked in the other one. But what I'll show you is, I've got that one on there. So when that's dried, a couple of days, although it's drying quite nicely now, I will put it in the little book. This is the little giveaway book with every colour I have in here. So we've got the Graphy Tint, and then we were going to have, I'm going to put these at the back or the front. They will be going in here and with a piece of plastic over, because the plastic will then be a palette so that you can mix your own colours if you want to. Which is what I've done with mine. But mine have cracked, but it doesn't matter. And I've shut the red when I shouldn't have done. But this is a different one. This is Winsor Newton gouache. But again, if you're colouring in or whatever you're doing, you just touch that and then just find a piece of my trusty. So it depends what brush size you use, it depends how much water you put into it. And that's wet, but as you shut that, that's fine, because all that's on there is the red, as long as it's opposite. Now, and there's a bit of blue there. Now, if that green came down here, I'd have to clean it. But then I've got 3, 6, 9, I've got 12 gouache in there. It did crack a little bit, so I'm hoping making this square and making it quite as thick that it won't crack. But I'm hoping that will just dry and you're just reconstituting it. Anybody got any questions? So that's now got the gouache into there. There's the 72 Derwent pencils, 72 ink 10s. Again, they're just done the same. And to reconstitute them, all you do is, if you're looking to find, well, no, I didn't think I'd have done that. Samantha, Danny, could you do me a big favour? Could you just find number 108 in the browns? Because it seems to have... Is that it? No, that's amber. It's a 208. I've named it violet and it's wrong, so I've made a mistake there. But these are normally in a tin somewhere. Again, that one, I did use that quite a lot. It's not violet. I've reconstituted it into a wrong colour. But this one is amber. And it's number 1710. Amber is 1710. And again, I've used quite a lot of that. So all you do is you just re-scribble over the top. Most of them behave themselves. The amber and the browns, because of the pigments, I presume. But this is what hurts my hands. But after the third go, that now is completely saturated. If it'll focus. Is it going to focus and behave itself? The thing is, once you take your glasses off, I can't see what I'm doing. I mean, you can use this for sketching outside. Let's see if that focuses. Oh, there we go. So if you can see that bit of a shine on there, the pencil scratch, you can see the shine. It's now full of colour again, that. Whereas that one, as you can see where I've used it, and this one's used a bit more. There are certain colours that are quite nice, like this one I use a lot. So again, but if you've just got the intense pencils, do a bigger square. But always label them and do a colour swatch, because it makes it so much easier then. If you, like the Caran d'Ache, I haven't got many, but if I had the 100 and some, whatever it is, it would drive me insane to go through them all. I've just got 3 or 4 pages, and mine are very unceremoniously chucked in this little plastic. Sorry, I've now got lots of things out everywhere. Oh, and a bunch. Oh, hi AP5, welcome to Bunny's Design. I'll just show you this. I'll keep knocking that really quickly. As I say, another. Oh, I found it. I knew I wasn't far away there. This is quite good. Now, sometimes you get them for £5 and sometimes you get them for £2. But I found this quite nice because it's very flat. And yet, oh, that one. Oh, these are a little bit thin. But if you were going to put the tubed paint and the watercolour paints, I would pop them on one of these. I mean, even if you spend a £5, you know, but this is going to last you forever. And then just pop it onto its photocopy paper page that you'd made. And that's all I've done. And then I've just labelled them. So we could do that the week after. All these little colours, I could put those in here as well. Because I was so, it's so wonderful to have people that appreciate what you do and like watching paint dry. So you can make this as cheap, as cheerful as you want. But I have to admit, I love having this little book. And I'm not ashamed to sit out with it, whereas the other one, which kind of fell apart, looked rather grim, I have to say. It did look rather grim. But don't use this for watercolour, for the pencils, or even the charcoals. You don't need to do that. It's only for tubed paint, because the colours will sit on top. Because that means you can actually use quite a lot of water on there, and if it gets on here, it's not going to disintegrate. But most of the other pages are cheap, so I'll leave that out because I'll lose it. That's not what I was looking for. That's not what I was looking for. I was going to show you this little magic pot here. And again, I couldn't take this with me because I have real difficulty opening this pot, and I can tell you that in hot weather these melt. They're not happy in hot weather. So in all here are all my, and these are from 20 years ago, these little diddy ones, and I used to on a train have a pot of water. I had a little diddy pot somewhere. I used the tubed specimen things, because obviously they don't leak. So you've got the tube of water, and I used to sit and I used to kind of dunk and colour in, and that's how I used to work on the train. But again, I don't think I could hold that now, really. And they're not so bad. Obviously, it'd be lovely to kind of rename them all again, and I will do that in the little book. I'll put those in next time. Because every week I'm going to put something in this little book until it's finished, and then we'll do the giveaway. The Caran d'Ache are here. And that's not that blue. I think it's this one. Yes, so all I can do is to, and again, it does hurt my hands a little bit, but you can feel the crayon building up the colour. Probably 2 or 3 times. Again, you'll soon know you can't do it anymore because bits appear, and that's bits of pure colour, and Tight Yorkshire Lass says stop now. But now I've got all that lovely colour on there, and these are fab. Absolutely fab. And again, I don't have a colour swatch, but these are just absolutely, oops, again, I don't normally wet them too much, but the Neo Colour 2s are gorgeous. I mean, there is no reason why you couldn't do this if you wanted to. And I've actually touched that purple now, but never mind, it will be fine. But there's a lot of colour there. The Neo Colour 2s are fab for colour pigment. So the better the pigment, the more colour you get out. But, you know, I want people to make the squares and think, well, you know, I've got pound shop things, but pound shop things will work. You know, you're colouring in. I was colouring in with this. The other day I coloured in with this from the pound shop. Now, they're a bit sticky, but they're not as watery. Oh, I can't even open the tin. But it works. You know, you can colour in with that. It's perfectly okay. I think these were, I don't think these were £5. These were from, Brain and Gear, Hobbycraft. But again, you know, I've got to open the pot. I think I've actually put these in somewhere. I think I've actually got these in somewhere. These are the watercolour sticks from Faber-Castell, and they are really gorgeous colours. I mean, and really vibrant as well, if you can see those. So I have a set of the box, and again I've labelled them and put a scale on them. But I love these, but again, I can't carry this around. It weighs a ton, and I can't get the pot lid off now. So they're in, I think, 6 colours. Yes, so there's Caran d'Ache there, Neo Colour 2s there. Some are I think repeated, I think, because there were different sets and I couldn't tell. If I do it again, I'm going to put all the oranges together and all the reds together, and then all the blues together and the greens, and then you have a page of just all greens. So did that make sense, or is that as clear as mud? But I love my little book. So as I say, I'm going to Derwent to see if they will, because what I want them to do is to bring out some printed squares on paper, and they will have the technology to put the colour on, or you can buy plain ones that you can then colour in yourself. If you've got the full set of Derwent, you're not going to want this one. But postage wise, look how thin that is. So postage wise, you know, if it was Derwent, you would be buying six of these and you will have a full set. And I think, and then if you love them, you could buy the real one, you know, buy the pencils. But I think that might be a lovely idea for people to build a little book for travel. That's a 21st century travel. What was I going to suggest next? So we've got some more colours. Has anybody got any questions? So this is a live stream for ustream.tv, and also, yeah, I think most yellow ochre is a funny colour. Sorry, so it's a live stream for ustream.tv, and also recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And I'm popping in some more for my giveaway. I'm popping in some more colours into my little book. Yes, it is. It is fab to have all your colours, and I say especially if you just want to colour with it. You know, we all. I think I've got past. Although I'm going to do art in the Abbey, but I don't know if I really want to do beautiful oil paintings when I'm about. But especially you sat at hospital. I sat at the hospital and I painted for ages with that. Just trying to think what I used. I must have used that when I did the horse. I can't remember what I used when I did the horse. I just can't remember. In the imagination, I shall have to imagine it. I'll have to have a look. But leave them whoops. You see, sometimes you've got to be a bit careful, but there's no reason if you don't put a little plastic palette, or sometimes if you buy, especially electrical, you get a really thick piece of plastic that's kind of flexible but stiff, like this. This is all this is. It's from packaging. And I made it for my Filofax. That's perfect. Bit of double-sided sticky tape, and as long as that's on the top of there, when it's in the book, you have a palette. So you can make oranges and yellows, and you can mix your own colours. So that's another advantage of this little paper palette. So I'm going to pop the green one there. Oopsie. It's just, again, you see, I can't do this with these. It's too much for me to take every top off every time I want any colour. So, but you could try this with, I wouldn't say pound shop ones, but not very expensive. The Cotman ones I've put in there, they were, oops, I'm going to put that over there, oops. And you really don't need black. I don't even know why I put black in, but I never use black now. If you want to make the colour darker, you add its complementary colour. When we did the colour mixing with the printer inks, that was show you what, just over 650 colours from the 3 printer inks. So, and there were some very dark reds and dark greens and dark yellows, and there wasn't a black inside. I think I did make black eventually, but, and again, don't need white, but it's in the set, so it's in there. And I'm going to let that cool. But, I mean, there's no reason why, while you're doing this, why you couldn't put... This isn't a very nice yellow, I have to say that. We haven't got a purple, so if we do this... Whoops, too much. Too much. Never mind. I should have... Is everybody okay? Whoops, okay that. Oh, thank you, Iffy. Yes, I love my little book. It's my pride and joy. I'll have to use that one time. I have things ready every week, and then things happen and disappear. So I'm going to take some of that off there and put that onto there. And then I'm going to take the vermilion red and put it onto here. This might not work, but hey-ho. And I'm going to take the lemon yellow, which disappeared somewhere. What did I do with the yellow now? I'll find it in a second. 2 seconds. So is everybody okay with that? Is everybody going to have a play of putting things in little books? I was going to make a... Ah, there it is. It is, Timothy says sometimes it's figuring out what you want to use. It is, and as I say, to get all these colours out, you could not work on a desk with all these. You'd have to be completely surrounded. I mean, this might not work. I've never done this before, but I've actually got a deeper green. But now I have gouache in an unusual green. And I've got to be a bit careful now. So again, if you did this separately and then stuck them in, You see, now that's a brown, and I wanted a purple. And let's have a look underneath. You see, it is a bit saturated. And so I'm going to put, oh, I'm going to do what I learnt in that book with the old masters. I'm going to take some of this. I think it's because, oh, I know why, it's the red. It's not pinky enough. See, it's an orangey red rather than a pinky red. So if you keep going, you're going to get some gorgeous brown. So we haven't got a purple because the red's the wrong colour. Doesn't matter what you do, you cannot get a purple out of those colours because you do not have the pinky red. And if you want to look at the colour mixing that we did, you can't do that. You'll always get a brown, doesn't matter what you do, even though you've got the French ultramarine, because we made this colour from the pinky red, the magenta. If you think about the printer inks, you've got magenta, this cyan, celerium or cyan blue, which is a very pale blue, and you've got a lemon yellow. And you can, but if you don't have that pinky red, by adding these two and making an orange, and then adding the orange to the pinky red, you get vermilion or cadmium red. But you will never get a pink red. It's impossible. So we won't get a pink out of there. But if I could find my other gouache, which I can't. I don't know where my other gouache is. No, can't find it. But anyway, we've got, I mean, we're colouring in, we've got these, but we haven't got any nice purples. But if you're colouring in and you want some greens and blues, you know, these are the colours that you own. These are your tubes. So instead of taking all these 12 colours out, having to take the top off, you've got them here. And an extra couple of colours as well. Extra 3 colours. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We've got 12. So we've got 12 colours. And if you had that red, you could have a couple of purples. The paper didn't particularly like it, but remember this is cheap sketchbook paper. But it's still holding its own. It's crinkled a little bit. But I shall sit that to dry, and then that will go in the little book. I'll just have a quick slurp. Is everybody all right with that? And then these can go back. The ends will dry. The insides will dry. I need a pot to put them in, don't I? I didn't know how, you see all these gouaches, they're all different. You see this, what I could do is, what I want to do, oh I haven't got space now, is it? You see there's the pink, Caran's Rose, but it's really vermilion, sorry not vermilion, that's a red one. You really want Elysian Crimson. Ah, found it. Ah, look at that. I found the crimson. I thought that was strange. So it is quite a good set, is that? Always look for the sets. In anything, always look for the sets. You need the 2 reds, the 2 blues, and the 2 yellows. And it's normally yellow ochre. And from those colours, you don't need anything else. So I'm going to put this into here somewhere. I might do another one actually. I'll do another one because we do need this one. Got to have this one in. But because I know what it is, what I'm going to do for me, I'm just going to put this here. And I will put this in my book and I will use it. I'm going to put that there like that. And if I put that there like this, I'm just, oh dear, sorry, it's feeding time at the zoo. And I thought they had like a little thing on the end. Bear with me 2 seconds. Oh, I'll use this, it's fine. I'm going to take a bit of that and I'm going to make a purple. And again, it's gone a bit brownish. That it's a dull purple. So the crimson's not as crimson as can be, but it's still a little bit pinky. I'll put a little bit more in there. Oh, did I put the wrong red in?
Yeah.
Did I put the wrong red in? No, I didn't think I did.
Yeah.
Put that into there. Is everybody all right with that? I have a lot of paints, but these are the children. These are the cheaper children's ones. And I went to art school to do graphic design when I was 16. And I did my art degree 5 years ago. So, yeah, I've been collecting a long time, but nearly always in the sale, cheap as chips. I'm a bit of a tight Yorkshire lass. And these would have been very expensive because I don't buy. I think I bought these because they were on offer, especially Cass Art. You know, they have half-price paints. So, but I think I bought these. Actually, I just realised I bought these for my daughter, and she didn't take them because when you're doing graphics or art, unless it's fine art, if you're doing I can't think of the word, illustrations and things, you need things that dry flat colours, especially for cartoons and things, and that's why you need the gouache. So I think I bought those. I think they were half price. I think they were £4, something silly. But I never pay £5 or £10. I've never been able to. That was one of my purchases. Most of these came from, I bid for £28 at least 10 years ago from eBay, I think. A box of paints with things in them. And this box, it was like everything I've ever wanted in a box. There were full sections of A2 sized watercolour pads, which are like, 20, 30, £40. Proper professional ones. Paintbrushes, 10 and 20, £30 each. I mean, it was just phenomenal. The Faber-Castell blocks, they were in there. There's the watercolour set here, professional watercolour set. I don't know how much these. Now this was my mum's. So it's quite precious to me. But again, you see, I can't open it very well. This is my mum's. That's what I did for my degree. I was painting with a dog hair. This is my mum's, and I have to keep it. But I don't know how much this is. It's a sheet. Can I actually physically hold of it? Probably pop this in. Hold me 2 seconds and see if I can open this. I thought it was in here. This is the Winsor & Newton set. That was in there, and I don't think these are cheap. But again, it's just difficult for me to hold. It's difficult for me to open up when my hands hurt. But this box was just phenomenal. So it's all been cheap and cheerful. When I see it, I buy it. But that's why I want to do the little book, so that people don't have to go out and spend a fortune. That's my idea. I mean, if we could all have our stash and we could make a paper palette of the set and send it to somebody who didn't have that, and they could send you a set of things that you didn't have. And then we'd all have a book full of thousands of colours. So they will be going into there, and then, as I said, I can make a paper palette for there. And then these squares can be on here, and you can put anything you want in. These are wonderful as well. And again, I want Derwent to bring these out in a paper palette. I mean, they might do the same as the Peerless. I imagine that probably would be more cost effective for them, is to bring, they can either do it like this in a little book, but they could do that size squares, because they will be presumably putting colour on a card like that. And you buy the card, and then you can cut it up and put it in your book. That might be an idea for them to do that. And again, it keeps the postage down, which is a big thing when we're across the pond. So I say I'm popping to Derwent in November. We do model shows all around the country, and again, I sit there behind the model railway show stall, and I colour in, and I'm quite happy doing that. And I don't want to do a masterpiece. I don't want to do my own drawing. If I draw with this pen for an hour or so, my arm is going to kill me for a week. I am doing Inktober, but that's another thing. But you know, I think I have to now class myself as disabled, which is awful, and I have to colour in and do what I can. And I've had to change and adapt. Some paint all over there. Oopsie, that wasn't good. A baby wipe. And I think that's what I wanted it for. I want it for, and the other thing is, I mean, can you imagine giving this to a child? You can give a small number of these to a child, and it can have a paintbrush, and it can flick and colour in. There's not pencils everywhere, there's not pencil shavings anywhere, and the kid is going to have a tablespoon of water. And if those big water pots were forever spilling when my girls were drawing. So you could, and old people, you know, I can't hold things. You know, you give them one of these, they can, you know, they obviously doesn't have to be so many colours. But given a 72 set of Derwent Inktense pencils, you can colour quite happily. And I think colouring in is something that should be in old people's homes, disabled homes. I think it's just something it's therapeutic for able-bodied people, so it must be therapeutic. And I use it for pain relief, I have to say. If I'm sitting there concentrating on a Kirby Roseanne sketchbook, I'm not thinking that my foot hurts or my arm hurts. So again, that's why I use it. So I'll just check to see if I've waffled. I've waffled enough. Well, I've invented watercolouring. Watercolouring is colouring in with watercolours in a dry paper palette that you can watercolour on a napkin. I've done a video watercolouring on a napkin, and once you can do that, you can colour in any book. I don't care what they print it on. Any colour book they bring out, you can colour it in on your pages of flat, and you need that for 600 colours. And I think that's, you know, have that on a brush. Doesn't work brilliant with water brushes. I have to say, if you're using a water brush, you have to kind of dry them off a bit. But it is possible with a water brush. I'll probably do another video, but I kind of like the way it works is there's the three brushes. There's a fine brush, a thicker brush, and that's taken me months to get perfect. So I suppose I could bring a set out of 3 paintbrushes and a book, a colouring in set, but this is watercolouring, and the way it works is you gather the, sorry about all the paintbrushes, you gather the damp brush, you gather the colour from whatever paper palette it is, and when you're colouring, the colour is being moved about the shape you're colouring, and the damp brush is manipulating the shade from dark to light, so you get some really nice watercolour effects without any water. But it has taken me months to get that perfect. You know, it's all the hard work's been done. I'm looking for the book. I'm looking for my Kirby Roseanne book now, because I can't find it. Didn't expect to do. So did that make any sense? Oh, thank you, Suzanne. That's the idea. I mean, I have been working out of here, but when I've been doing this, and I've loved it because we made these colours. These are all made from the 3 colours, from the printer ink colours. But these are the cheap 99p Cotman. And it took 3 tubes to make 80, I think there's 18 colours. 14, I think there's 20 colours. And we made them from yellow, Elysium crimson, and cerulean blue. And they were reduced to 99p. But you can make all your own colours. Again, I couldn't make French ultramarine. So I've gone back to 6 colours. 2 blues, 2 reds, 2 yellows, and then you can make any colour on the planet. But because I want rid of these out of here to put my professional watercolours in, I bought the 6 professional ones. Again, they were half price, quarter price, bit tight Yorkshire Lass. And I now have another. And they will be going in the book as well. They will be going in the book because that's how I roll. But I was quite impressed with getting these. Even these in a paper part. Even these on here. There is a difference. And these are completely dry. In the Stay Wet palette, they never really dry. But I love these in here. And yeah, there's only 2mm, but you know, you've got enough colour. You're not doing a huge watercolour, because you do a huge watercolour at home. Whereas here, I'm just playing with colour. And if I don't want to play with colour, I've got some quite nice, vibrant colours to use. And they are professional watercolours. So you have to forgive me, but I do go on about my little book. My little book. But yeah, I mean, these are still lovely colours. I've done, I need to find this little book because obviously I'm going to use it. There is one of the first Kirby Roseanne ones I did when I was ill, and I had my little tripod a few months ago. But I was so impressed by having a watercolour effect and not using any water. I mean, I've just got the colour and stroked the colour out from here. So I'm going to focus. And kept going and going and going and going. Eventually, all the dampness from the brush has naturally, no blending, it's just naturally blended it out. Very much like the chameleon pens, but the opposite. They go from light to dark, and this goes from dark to light. But I mean, some really gorgeous effects that took 2 seconds. There's no going over it, there's no touching it twice. I did the petal and moved on, and there's. It's not focusing very well, is it? And the reason that that's creased is my husband had to do an emergency stop, and my lid with my tablespoon of water tipped up and dribbled down the page. Otherwise that would be perfectly flat. But I took that to hospital because I was there for hours, and I just sat, and I just loved stroking the page. There's no pressure on your hands at all, and it just really loved the watercolours. And then I did the professional watercolours, and I think I've only used 3 colours, I can't remember now. But there's about 4 or 5 videos on that one. Because I decided that I'd quite like to use professional watercolours, even though I can't really paint anymore. I'm going to try to do art in the Abbey, but I'm not sure. I think once a week is going to be the most. But professional watercolours are a dream to use because that deep red is that colour with water. Is that focusing? Oh, hi Grammy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Hopefully I've said hi to everybody. Sorry, Grammy25. Which page? I kind of waffled on and gone. Ify's just said, what a lot of work. It isn't. If you watch the video, you see how quick it is. These particular pages are not quick. I did a photocopy, which it gets screwed up and thrown about. The photocopy took me 2 days for that page, but I played with colour, and again, I love the fact that I've got, if I can focus on there, is that focusing? That's just one paintbrush with some colour in it. I've gone over a couple of times to make some darker shades, but normally it's pale to dark, dark to pale. And you get these beautiful watercolour effects just pushing the paintbrush across like that. And then it's done. I don't need to get 6 different lavenders. I don't have to mess about. It was done. Oh, the one before the rabbit. Well, I was so ill I couldn't even get off the sofa. And that's why there was the tripod in there. The only problem with it, the sound is pants. Because I was so ill, I put the TV on and I used my little laptop that was broken. So I connected it to the TV because I broke the screen. So the laptop worked, but the screen didn't. So I could barely see the screen at the other side of the room. But what I forgot to do was to put the microphone on the microphone of the camera. It was on the television. It was on the laptop, which was at the other side of the room. So although you can see me colouring, the sound is pants. So I don't think I let it go out. But you can see just how easy it is. And all you do is you start with the colour and you get the little colour on the, and you just keep going. As I say, almost identical to the peerless. You just keep going. You don't stop. You just keep going. And once you've done a photocopy of a page and you've played about with different shapes and different sizes, you'll have got the knack with the water, the damp brush and the colour, and you'll have got it off to such a T that there's nothing you couldn't do. Again, I turned the page for me here. I put colour here, started and carried on. I didn't have to go back in there again. That was done. So actually, a couple of seconds for each flower. You know, if you were doing that, you have to get a different green and a different green and another green and pull the pen top off or put the pen top back on or sharpen the pencil. Things I can't do because all the pressure is in this bendy brush. So my joint, these 2 joints are really bad. I can do this all day because I'm hardly holding the paintbrush. I'm stroking it across. Again with the petal, another petal, just stroked it across. Done. Got some more colour, stroked it across. Done. I'll actually show you what I'm going to do because I want to work on this one because I haven't worked on it since I did the video a few weeks ago. So I'm going to do a little bit of Inktober and then I'm going to colour this unless you want me to do this first. Timothy says, what brand do I use? What brand of what, darling? It's a damp brush with watercolour, but they are watercolours they are dry. It's watercolouring. Do you want me to, shall I do that now? I'll stop this video and I shall do that now, shall I? Would that be okay? Yes, because I've waffled quite a bit, so so thanks for watching, and part 2 will be actually using the book and colouring.